listening to Forensic Geek Radio. I'm Detective Zach Foxen. Happy New Year! Be careful of what might be in that jello. 1980s American dad Bill Cosby was finally criminally charged this week in a Philadelphia court. Cosby now formally faces criminal charges of sexual assault just before the statute of limitations was due to expire this year of 2016. While the former TV star has been dogged with such allegations from various women over the past few years, he had avoided any actual criminal filings. The allegations, which only have been reviewed in civil cases, of which a 2006 civil case resulted in a settlement, Cosby is accused of providing women with an alcohol and pill cocktail followed by unwanted, lewd, and lascivious acts. In a statement on Wednesday after posting a $1 million bond, his defense attorney stated that they would be mounting a vigorous defense against an unjustified charge, which was simply the result of a district attorney's campaigned promise. Nonetheless, in the 2006 civil hearing, Cosby admitted to sexual contact, stating that he continued to go into the area that is somewhere between permission and rejection, and that he wasn't stopped. I wasn't aware that there was a gray jello. In a continuation from last week's episode, one of the biggest obstacles faced in the forensic disciplines is backlogs. This is specifically one of the issues addressed in an audit of the Oregon State Police Crime Labs released on Tuesday. The NIJ audit found that the labs had a backlog of over 3,700 items of evidence for testing, a 90% increase from 2005. Focused on DNA and fingerprint testing, this is actually more of a common issue on the national platform than just in the Pacific Northwest. With the advancing technology of touch DNA and similar drives, the disciplines have seen the same problem only growing over the past few years. The number of requests for testing continue to increase, while staffing levels remain the same. This has created such a nightmarish backlog that grips multiple agencies across the country, to the point that many labs have criteria for items that will be processed or not processed. This past year, we saw this demonstrated by a Texas lab suspending touch DNA on property cases. Within Georgia, we have similar issues with a restriction on touch DNA only on major cases and a restriction of forensic biology on drug crimes. The recommendations of the audit echoed the often heard harp of bettering workflow, enforcing submission guidelines, and ensuring that those frontline investigators have the most up-to-date evidence collection training. In the now shadowed years of the NAS report, are we failing as a practice? Are we simply struggling to keep up with the demands of our own creations? Or are we simply managing ourselves poorly? Let me pose this question to you then. In a state where we restrict the forensic services provided to a criminal case, are we really giving those victims justice? I'd like to know what you think in this. How can we aid the ongoing backlog issue? Let me know your thoughts on Facebook with the /Forensic Geek. David Reedy, a Virginia man who served the past 21 years in prison, he was alleged of having murdered his two daughters by arson, was given a full pardon this past week. Maintaining his innocence for the past 2 decades, the governor and investigators finally commissioned a review of the flawed fire sciences practiced in the 1987 investigation. With incorrect interpretation of burn patterns and now discredited analysis of trace evidence, Reedy's attorney compared the scientific evidence presented in the criminal jury trial as being less than reading tea leaves. This continues to be a noted incident, as Reedy is not alone. Just last year, a Pennsylvania man was released after serving 24 years when the modern science disproved the techniques formerly practiced in another arson death investigation. It seems that the error rate of the past 20-30 years ago was more common, or at least that's the allegations by the Arson Research Project. Not only was 2015 the warmest year on record for the planet, depending on how you measure it, it was also the worst El Nino. Not simply a coincidence between the two, the naturally occurring phenomenon of El Nino is set to cause global issues over the next few months with severe droughts and extreme food shortages in Africa, droughts in Australasia, serious flooding on other continents, and a predicted horrendous winter to affect the northern hemisphere. Currently, aid agencies are seriously concerned over the projected global humanitarian impact. As an example, currently over 31 million are facing food shortages in Africa. How does this series of dominoes initially start? Well, let me explain how El Nino works. See, normally trade winds push warm waters west across the Pacific towards Asia and Australia, causing cold winds and waters to swell along the North and South American coast. However, when the ocean temperature of the West Pacific are constantly unusually warmer, a torrent of western winds occur that push that warm water and current across the Pacific back towards the Americas. This in turn causes an El Nino. Remember, you can follow the impact of the humanitarian needs through the various aid organizations such as the American Red Cross and the World Health Organization. Get ready to change out those old periodic table charts, as at the close of the year, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry announced that a Russian-US collaboration had attained sufficient evidence to claim the discovery of elements 115, 117, and 118. Now that the seventh row is now full, the super heavy elements 113, 115, 117, and 118 can be given a symbol and a name. But who gets the bragging rights and recognition to suggest the symbol and names but their discoverers? 113 is credited by teams at the RICOH Center in Japan, who studied the decay of the super heavy elements after slamming lighter nuclei together. 115, 117, and 118 go to researchers at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna, Russia, and the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California. With it being such an exciting time, it seems that the 21st century has begun to give a new light to somewhat of a new Renaissance era. What do you think the names for the newly added elements should be? Hit me up on Twitter at Zach Foxen with your name nominations. With the beginning of the new year, you may be facing the time to do budget requests. What new equipment will you be looking to outfit you or your team with? Or are you simply a listener that is fortunate enough not to be swamped with the bureaucratic budget? Either way, let me hit you up with a product highlight. The RICOH WG-30 is a point-and-shoot camera that really has become a staple to my kit. It offers a 16 megapixel backlit CMOS sensor, which gives an incredible image detail. It has a wide angle 5x internal optical zoom and provides really a versatile depth of field. This camera has a built-in macro lens lighting system, a ring around the actual lens. The macro capabilities of this camera really do rival my DSLR. The fingerprint qualities that I get are awesome. And not only is it such a great camera with a high resolution and offering a 1080p HD 30 frame per second video option, it's shockproof, it's weatherproof, it's waterproof up to your certain degrees. This camera you could basically freeze in sub-temps of 14 degrees and it's still gonna work. You can check it out on Amazon or on RICOH's website, depending on which model you go with, because there are Bluetooth capabilities to this camera. You're going to spend somewhere between $175 to $280. The Bluetooth capability is pretty cool because you can hook it up to your phone and be able to control all your different settings through that. This camera is great whether you are using it out at a scene, on your basic burglaries, or within the lab, or you're just a listener that wants to take it on vacation. It is going to have a dynamic range of versatility for your different needs. With that, we draw to a close for this shortened episode, it seems, but welcome to the new year. 2016 is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see the discoveries and really the advancing tech and science that we continue to explore, both here on Earth as well as in space. Remember, you can check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and go to the iTunes store, give us a rating. We would love to hear what you have to say about the show. On that note, I'm Detective Zach Foxen, and keep learning.